Hello everybody. I want to introduce you to a program that I'm currently using and working with. It's called Night Zookeeper. I know I have a lot of people that homeschool that visit my channel, and right now there's a lot of new homeschoolers because of everything going on. If you're looking for a program that will help your children in English, reading, writing, and creative writing, this is a program that would be great for you. It's very fun and engaging for the children. It's for ages 6 to 12. It inspires a love of writing. Night Zookeeper has interactive lessons that teach spelling, punctuation, and creative writing. There are lots of fun videos to watch, and your children get to create a zoo full of animals and write fun stories about them. It promotes creativity as you write about being a zookeeper in a zoo full of magical animals. There are so many fun games that teach proper spelling, punctuation, typing on the keyboard, hand-eye coordination, and so much more. Here's a trailer of the program. Please check it out.
Now once upon a night time, not many moons ago, a young and fearless zookeeper was battling his foes. A hound of darkening monsters with red eyes shining bright. They ripped and tore and howled and squawked, and now they rule the night. So come on and join the story. Welcome to the zoo. The night zookeeper shines the light, but the zoo needs you. The Lord of Milk declared a war on our fair world of night. The Sandler spine giraffe is here to help us win this fight. Can you depend on your new friends to guard against dark elements? Well, if you want to see the future, travel with the elephant. Come on and join the story. Welcome to the zoo. The night zookeeper shines the light, but the zoo needs you. The night zookeeper shines the light, but the zoo needs you.
If this is a product you'd be interested in, I'm going to leave my promo code in the description. It will give you 50% off the subscription. Everybody that signs up gets a 7-day free trial, but if you use my promo code, it will give you 50% off your annual subscription. My children are currently using this program. They love playing the games and interacting with the story. It helps them with letter recognition, punctuation, and spelling. My son was having a very hard time memorizing his ABCs and learning words. This program has drastically improved his letter recognition just within the first couple of days. It's like night and day. Before, he was having a hard time recognizing the letters. 2 days into using this program, he knows all his ABCs. That's how good I like this program is and how much I recommend it. Especially if you have a child that is struggling to learn to read and struggling with letter recognition, try this program. There's a 7-day free trial. I guarantee you'll see an interest and a difference within the first 7 days. I love this program because it's bringing their imagination to life by writing a story out of their mind. They get to create animals, and they get to write anything that pops into their mind. They get to write about it. Night Zookeeper, it's an animated TV show by Sky Kids. It's a series of adventure books that it works with Oxford University Press. It has an award-winning website. Go to nightzookeeper.com. I guarantee you your children will love this program. Mine do. They are always asking to play on it. If you do sign up, don't forget to use my promo code for 50% off.
Good morning, everybody. God bless each and every one of you. You are all special, and we are all in this together. And here at the Acker home, we are praying for everybody. So today, I want to talk about something that recently happened that has affected the homeschooling community in a big way. There's a lot of new homeschoolers this year because of COVID-19, and this information may help them choose their path with homeschooling. Also, it will help returning homeschoolers aware of the changes and options that may help. In May, the province slashed $12 million from the Independent Distributed Learning School program. For those that are not aware, there are a few choices for a parent in BC looking into homeschooling. You can register with a public school where you are not under any supervision from the school, you're just on their books as registered. You can sign up for the DL program, which is the Distributed Learning Program, through a public school, where I believe you have access to a teacher, funding, and usually a lending library. You can sign up for the registered or DL through an independent school, where a lot of times have more classes to homeschooling resources and classes. So I'm going to go over an article right now, News 1130, and the headline is BC Home Learning Parents Call on the Province to Restore Program Funding. A petition to restore funding for a type of homeschooling program in BC is picking up steam. Earlier this month, the province slashed $12 million from the Independent Distributed Learning School system, which enables kids to learn at home while connected online with a certified BC teacher. The government says more than 9,300 primary students are enrolled in 16 schools throughout the system. It is not clear how many secondary students are in the IDL program, but there are likely another couple of thousand. Since 2012, the system had received $3,843 per student per year, which is 63% of what is provided for students of the public distributed learning system. This coming school year, that is dropping to $3,050 per student enrolled in the independent distribution learning schools, about 800 less per year. That prompted Darlene Bybee of Kimberley to launch a petition which has garnered more than 12,000 signatures as of Monday morning. I suggest y'all sign the petition. The link will be in the description. It's so awesome. I hope the message is getting to the right people, she says, of the response the petition is getting. Baby's two teenagers attend Heritage Christian Online School. In fact, they've never attended school per se. Bybee says her interest in this type of homeschooling began before the kids were school age. My oldest had a speech delay, so to get him talking, we started to teach him at home when he was only 3 years old. Bybee says in that process she found she loved teaching her kids and having them at home. She's convinced her children wouldn't have been able to sit down in a classroom all day. But they do well at home because they take breaks, she explains. They are now both in grade 10. One of the things I love about home learning is it's flexible. She notes people who choose home learning do so for a variety of reasons. Some have children who need more attention or are gifted. One parent who left a comment on the petition said her child was suspended from school 4 times and was mentally broken. In Bybee's case, the school doesn't charge tuition. The province says 15 of the 16 IDL schools are fee-free. However, Bybee points out parents need to buy supplies that are normally found in a classroom. There is a bucket of money that we can access each year to purchase things like textbooks, workbooks, science kits, or chemistry equipment. She fears the budget cut is going to reduce the amount of money they can draw upon. It costs quite a bit of money to facilitate all the learning of your child. I think the average family spends between $1,000 and $1,500 per student per year outside the funding that is available, she says. So that's why it's such a huge hit, because families are going to be directly affected by those decreases in funding. Looking at this coming school year, I'm already asking myself, what can I make do with? Home learning is largely achieved with a parent at home, meaning the other parent is these and other programming that usually comes in a classroom setting is very important. The petition also notes the irony of funding cuts coming at a time when students across the province are learning from home and, may I inject, are being encouraged to be homeschooled. This cut targets some of the most vulnerable students in our province. The timing of this announcement comes at a time of economic hardship for many and will further reduce options for parents regarding educational choice for their children. It is also at a time when online learning should be valued, celebrated, and supported, reads the petition. Just because I teach my children at home under certified BC teachers and up to and beyond ministry standards does not mean my children are second rate, second class, and not worth the funds for a decent education that I am already paying plenty of taxes for, says one comment left by a parent on the petition website. The province says the cuts are meant to equalize the payments going to all independent schools. Brick and mortar independent schools receive only half of what public schools receive per student. And the reduction in the IDL funding would also bring it in line with 50% of what the public distributed learning programs get. The Ministry of Education also stresses that funding for students enrolled in the public distributed learning program is unaffected and that students with special needs will continue to receive the funding at the same level. And may I add that Tiffany and I, we don't have a lot of money. This money that is coming from the government and going to the schools sure does help us a lot. But over the years, we have learned that you can go out there and you can find material. Not all at once, not all in the same place, of course. It took a lot of hard work for me and Tiffany to build up the materials that we have in the classroom now. But there are ways you can cut corners with costs. You can go to the thrift store, and you can look around at the thrift stores for all the different books they have. The thrift stores right now are overloaded with books, children's books, history books, all kinds of different books. I mean, there is no book out there that isn't worth picking up. I believe books give you knowledge. So, anyways, there is a video on our channel, the Homeschool Mom, Canadian Homeschool Mom, that talks about being thrifty while homeschooling, and I suggest you check it out if you need any ideas. So I'm going to be going over another article by The Progress. Thronis speaks out on funding cuts to independent distributed learning schools. That's the IDL program for short. Chilliwack's MLA changes in funding models for BC's 16 IDL schools disturbing. Okay, so a $12 million cut, again, in the government funding to independent distributed learning, IDL schools has sparked criticism from both homeschooling parents and the opposition. IDL is a method that allows students to connect with their teachers from anywheres. There are currently 16 IDL schools listed as active on the Ministry of Education's website. There are none listed as based in Chilliwack. But there are many families in Chilliwack that use IDL schools entirely or in combination with in-class learning at either private or public schools. The funding change announced at the start of May, but not effective until July 1st, caught the attention of Chilliwack MLA Laurie Thronis. He calls the funding disturbing. The NDP have decided to slash funding by $12 million on July 1st for online independent schools, not doing the same for online distance education in public schools, he said in a Facebook post. This disproportionately hurts special needs, remote rural, low income, and homeschool kids. Right in the midst of a pandemic when they're encouraging more online learning, I find this inexplicable and unacceptable decision. Not based on evidence, so disturbing. The Ministry of Education website explains the funding changes, saying that for school years 2012-13 to 2019-20, as set out in the Independent School Regulation, PDF, Group 1 DL independent schools are funded at 63% of the public school DL FTE rate. Group 2 schools are funded at 44.1% of the same public school DL FTE rate. They add, beginning in the 2020-21 school year, the DL funding rates will change to Group 1 independent DL schools will be funded at 50% of the public school DL FTE rate, while Group 2 independent DL schools will be funded at a 35% of the public school DL FTE rate. But that information leaves out any rationale for the changes. The Progress contacted the Ministry of Education for an explanation. After extensive consultation through the funding model review, we are modernizing the delivery of online learning programs over the next 3 school years to better support the new curriculum and ensure every student has consistent access to quality education, a ministry representative answered. The way kids learn in school today has evolved, and students are learning both online and in the classroom. They say that the previous Liberal government increased funding for independent school online learning in the 2012-2013 school year, which resulted in independent distributed learning schools being funded at a 13% higher rate than the rest of the independent sector, and that funding has increased until this year. Independent schools, we're making things consistent by funding the independent online learning at the same funding rate as all other independent schools. Some of Throness's concerns may be eased by other information provided by the ministry. To ensure that children with special needs continue to be prioritized, special education funding for those enrolled with independent online schools will not change, they added. These changes cover independent school distributed learning programs only and not distributed learning programs in public school or for homeschoolers. Only one of the 16 IDLs charged tuition fees, assigned to the Ministry of Education that they were being overfunded. Government funding of independent schools is not intended to cover a school's full operating costs, and yet the vast majority of independent distributed learning schools were able to operate without charging tuition, they said. This is simply part of an ongoing reasonable fiscal management. So in a tweet, it says the NDP, okay, we read that. Rhiannon Gascalone of Chilliwack also has concerns, excuse me if I pronounced that wrong. As a homeschooling mother of 6 for the past 8 years, she says their family just scrapes by with one income. She has 2 special needs kids, a gifted child, and one with type 1 diabetes. She says her kids not only learn better at home, but save the public system thousands of dollars because they do not require a teacher's assistance in class at public school. She says the targeting of the IDL is unacceptable discrimination. No other students in the province are losing funding, she says. Targeting home learners means targeting lower income earners and large percentage of children with special needs. She also feels it may backfire on the province if students can't get the distance education they have been using and need to enter a regular public school. It is because of my family's financial sacrifice and hard work that there is more money in the public system for those who prefer to send their kids to public school, she adds. We don't deserve to have to pick up more of the cost of our children's education than we already do. We pay taxes like everyone else, and our children are entitled to government support for education. Now is a time to celebrate home learners. And I have one more article here. It is from the Vancouver Sun. It says, province slashes funding for independent home-based learning. Should home-based students in BC pay tuition? Families that choose to educate their kids at home say they have been blindsided by a $12 million funding cut that could jeopardize BC's independent distributed learning system. On Monday, the Ministry of Education told the province's 16 IDL schools they will receive about $800 less per student effective July 1st. It feels likely they tried to sneak this in during the pandemic, said Capri Retell. The Maple Ridge mother of 4 has one enrolled in an IDL school, with another beginning in September. No one had any idea this was coming. We had already started purchasing our curriculum and supplies for the next year, as parents that homeschool do. Often mischaracterized as homeschooling distributed learning schools, both public and independent, are overseen by a BC certified teacher. They follow the BC curriculum and award students a dogwood diploma when they complete the provincial graduation requirements. While most learning takes place at home, with parental support, many schools run weekly community classes and provide online instruction and resources. The funding cut reduces the amount for students in independent distributed learning schools from 63% to 50% of the amount for students in the public distributed learning system. In a statement provided to Post Media, the Ministry of Education said the reduction makes funding for IDL schools consistent with the rate received by bricks and mortar independent schools. The previous government increased funding for independent school online learning in the 2012-2013 school year. This resulted in independent distributed learning schools being funded at a 13% higher rate than the rest of the independent sector, said the statement. Government funding of independent schools is not intended to cover a school's full operating costs, and yet the vast majority of independent distributed learning schools were able to operate without charging a tuition. But IDL educators say the funding formula was determined in 2012 after extensive consultation with the government, which involved IDL schools opening their books to show they couldn't provide a BC education with any lesser amount. We now have an $800 shortfall to make up in a couple of months. We now have an $800,000 shortfall to make up in a couple of months. This hurts our ability to help the kids who need it the most, said Gabe Lidner, principal of Traditional Learning Academy Online, which has about 1,400 students. The cuts mean IDL students will be funded at about 34% of the amount for students in bricks and mortar schools in Surrey, roughly $3,000 per student compared to $9,000. The government has promised not to change funding for special needs children enrolled in IDL schools, but many parents choose home learning for kids who struggle with bullying or learn differently, as well as those with socioeconomic issues. A chunk of our budget is set aside to help families who have come to us because the public school system wasn't working for their kids, said Lidner. These are BC students from tax-paying families. The majority of IDL families get by on a single income because one parent must be home with the kids, said Sarah Krauscher, academic head of the Heritage Christian Online School, which has about 5,200 students. Many families have been hit by the pandemic, so the timing of this is really brutal. Krishner said in IDL schools, Krauscher said IDL schools give parents choice while living out the BC curriculum by providing personalized learning plans for students that allow them to do their best. Chilliwack's Melissa Giles chose home-based learning for her son after he was diagnosed with hypoglycemia in grade 3. The public school system was not able to provide him with a learning aid. After having a blood sugar issue in class, he was in hospital for a week and then spent a month home recovering. When he was at home, I realized I was making progress with teaching him, she said. The family started in the public distributed learning system, but still felt unsupported in the IDL system. Giles was about to get her son the help he needed. Giles was able to get her son the help he needed. He is now in grade 11. The government wants us to pay tuition, but it doesn't make sense, she said. I have to be home with the kids, and for the last 6 weeks during the pandemic, my husband has been home too. We're scrambling. So there's some articles for you. How this affects the schools, the parents, and the students. It affects IDLs by resulting in staff pay cuts at independent distributed schools so that they are not able to afford more staff/teachers. Lowers the numbers of students that can be enrolled through the program. A teacher can only handle so many students, and with less teachers, there are less students able to enroll in the DL program. It will force more parents to enroll through public school in the DL program who have also had funding cuts and because of COVID, there are a lot more parents wanting to enroll their child in the DL program, and most are already full and don't have more room for students. With funding cuts, they cannot afford more teachers to take on the increase in children needing to enroll. So many parents don't feel safe sending their children back to public school because of the virus, and homeschooling is going to seem like an impossible choice because of the DL classes being full. It will lead to frustration and panic from parents who are too scared to send their children back to public school. They are still left with the option to register with a public or independent school, but a lot of parents looking at homeschooling because of COVID are looking for guidance from a certified BC teacher. Can you blame them? This year, if you are able to enroll through DL, you may have to pay a tuition fee or pay more for tuition than the previous year, but you should still be able to receive funding. It will be just less this year than in previous years. Can you imagine if you were bringing your child down to the nearest public school and they said you need to pay $600 to enroll your child into this school? Could you imagine? You'd be beside yourself. You would be starting to berate them with, I pay taxes, I pay taxes. For example, the school I've been registered with for the last few years is giving two options for IDL. Option 1 is to pay a $200 tuition fee and receive $600 funding per learner. Option 2 is pay $0 tuition fee and receive $350 per learner. They also used to provide $150 for each registered homeschooler, and out of the $175 grant the school gets for each registered homeschooler. They won't be handing that out anymore to the parents because of the cuts they are receiving. There is no law that they have to send that money to the parent. It is totally up to the individual school. The funding for IDL this year is significantly lowered and will affect curriculum purchases and learning activities. Many schools limit things like lending library access and community classes. Special needs children in the DL and IDL program will be affected, losing access to therapies because of funding cuts. Right now, there is a petition to restore or increase funding to the distributed learning child in BC with over 15,000 signatures. I hope you go and sign to help homeschooling families in BC.
I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have a comment about the recent funding cuts in British Columbia, please leave it down in the comments. If you have any other topics that you would like me to discuss, please share them in the comments below and I would be happy to go over them. If you have any topics or questions. I know that there's a lot of new homeschoolers this year. Everybody's a little nervous because of having to homeschool because of the pandemic. There's a lot of options out there that people weren't aware of. So there's always somebody to reach out to and ask questions to, somebody that's been homeschooling for years. You aren't alone. You aren't alone in this at all. We all started the same way you are, the same feelings. Thank you for listening to this video, and if you liked it, remember to give a like and subscribe. I thank all of my subscribers who have already subscribed to the channel. I really appreciate you. Thank you for having subscribed and supporting me. And I just hope everybody is enjoying their summer. I know things are stressful right now, so hope you all are out there enjoying your summer and have a great day.